Okay, good afternoon everybody. Thank you for joining this webcast, which is the first in a series of 5 webcasts where we'll share with you our experience and our learnings from implementing cloud-based applications, Oracle cloud-based applications. We tend to make the sessions as informative as possible, share our experience and hopefully provoke some thoughts in people in terms of questions you may want to ask, etc. The first one today will last about 30 minutes and it'll give you background to the company and why we adopted a strategy of cloud-based applications. Then on the 14th of April we're going to talk about doing more than just finance. So, we've now delivered and implemented a multi-pillar cloud solution, so ERP and HCM, and we're extending that all the time. And then we'll look at ways that you can work more intuitively with cloud in terms of more interaction, more data, more mobility, more data access, etc. And then we'll focus back on some basic functionality and talk about some of the new concepts we're seeing and particularly focusing on around cloud financials in terms of closed financial reports, and then set the scene for the future. We've got plans afoot ourselves and the market's developing all the time, and we'll talk a bit about some of the planning and budgeting cloud type services that are available. To make this a bit more intuitive, we are going to run some polls. So in a minute I'm going to ask you a question which hopefully will come through on the screen, and you'll have some buttons to press which will allow you to choose an answer to the relevant question. And also we'll share this back to the audience in the post-webinar update to everybody. So in a second you'll get a question which I'll ask you to have a look at and post a reply to, and I'll leave it up there for about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Here it is. So let's close the poll down, and as I said, we'll share those the output from that with you a bit later on. So before we get going, some introduction. So my name is Phil Wilson. I'm the Senior Vice President at Inoapps, been here for 8 years, and was part of putting together our cloud strategy. And I've been involved in the implementation over the last 18 months, and obviously quite heavily involved looking at strategy moving forward, whilst also looking after channels and alliances for the whole of the company. Joining me this afternoon and taking part in the presentation is one of my colleagues called Pascal Gromel. Pascal, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Yes, hi Phil, hello everyone. So yeah, Pascal Gromel, I joined Inoapps recently. I'm the head of the ERP operations, so basically everything related to pre-sales and project delivery. So yeah, happy to be here and I hope you will enjoy the presentation.
Thanks Pascal. And as I mentioned earlier, we use quite a lot of social media to put news out. So one of the things we're going to be doing during the series is sharing information and feedback and answers to questions and answers to polls through some of our social media. So please feel free to attach to us via LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. And at the end of the slide, you will see some of those details. But I'm fairly sure you'll find us if you go searching on any of those mediums also. So just some admin, depending on what user interface you're using, whether you're using a tablet device or a PC. Obviously we encourage people to raise questions at any time. We'll ask if there's any questions at the back end as well. And we'll take questions as they come when we can answer them. If at any point we've got too many questions or we don't know the answer to the question, then what we will do is leave that question to the back end and put out an answer in a consolidated list via one of our social media channels or as feedback to the sessions. So you'll either have a window at the top of your tablet or a box on the right hand side of your screen or wherever you've moved it to. and quite simply to ask anybody who is a presenter during that, and there's obviously the two of us, please feel free to put your question into those boxes, and as I said, we will try and address those questions as we go through the session. So, a quick review of the agenda for today. So I'll talk briefly about Inoapps and the company overview, where we are, who we are. I'll then talk about why we chose Oracle ERP Cloud initially, and subsequently talk a bit about some of the expansion of that. The process we went through as part of that, as you'd expect any customer-focused company. You know, at the end of the day, you know, we went through a selection process looking at other applications as well. And then we'll talk about how we've deployed ERP Cloud, and actually probably the most important thing is talk about lessons learned and where we see the future. And hopefully we'll make the content relevant and appealing to you all. Obviously we welcome any feedback in terms of how we can make it more exciting and more informative. As we get through some of the later presentations, we're going to do quite a lot of hands-on demos, which again, you know, it's a whole new interface, whole new world out there, and we're keen to sort of share our experience and share reality out there in the marketplace. Expected duration for today is around 30 minutes. Hopefully we'll stick with that, but if there are any questions you think of afterwards, then again, please don't hesitate to contact us via the social media or the contact email address at the end of the presentation. So Inoapps, just as a company overview, we're an independent Oracle specialist partner, so we're not only a customer of Oracle's, but also we do work very closely with them. We deliver applications, BI, technology, and also have experience in hosting and managed services. Probably more importantly, obviously, one of the things that's been announced recently is we've been recognised in a number of the general press, such as the Sunday Times and the Deloitte Fast Track, has been a very rapidly developing business services, business solutions company, and more latterly, in the last week or so, we've been recognised by Oracle as being their Cloud Partner of the Year, which we're very proud of as a recognition. So you know, we do a lot of our work in the Oracle community, but at the end of the day, we're a professional services company, and hence, with some of the challenges and drivers we had, we needed to do something about our ERP system. In terms of location, we were initially established in the UK, head office in Aberdeen, and then through acquisition, developed offices in Edinburgh and Derby. We always had an aspiration, which is we wanted to deliver multinational global projects. The nature of some of the markets we got into meant we had to have global delivery capability, and also we wanted to be able to do true 24/7 type support. We also saw the opportunity that Pascal will talk about this a bit later on, but you know, with the nature of cloud-based solutions, whilst you know there's never you know, you never get rid of the requirement to be in front of the customer and talking about the business requirements, you can start to move some of the configuration and the back office type engine room type activities away, and therefore being global gives us the ability to flex that around and deliver a true onshore offshore model. Focus areas, as I mentioned earlier: applications, implementations, ERP and HCM initially, moving on to CX, so CRM, so some of the upfront contact and opportunity management solutions. We also deliver Hyperion and EPM solutions. We do quite a lot around mobility, so we do a lot of mobile applications development for people, for companies that are quite dispersed. And historically a lot of that has been on-premise, but actually we saw the move to cloud quite early and invested quite early to make sure that we were ahead of the game. Main industries, I'll pick a couple. So engineering construction is quite large for us. High technology is a big development area, and more latterly financial services has become quite a prime area for us to go and deliver solutions relevant to those market spaces. And that's one of the things we do. We don't just deliver base solutions, we also look at innovative ways to tackling challenges within the vertical industry and put together vertical solutions for specific industries. So just as background, I've mentioned it a couple of times. We have now been live with Cloud ERP for over 18 months. We were one of the early adopters. Since that time, and since successfully going live, we've expanded that solution to include HCM, and that has enabled us to become one of the first multi-pillar implementations across the world. And obviously one of the key takeaways from this and one of the key learnings for this is why we did it and what it's allowed us to do. Obviously, it's a major investment. A project of this nature historically is quite complex, but obviously when you're growing at the sort of size that we have been growing and continue to plan to grow, we needed the ability to have a system that grows with us. We needed to ensure that we had consistent processes across the company and support the growth that we're going through, and also look at how we can do some cost reduction type exercises in terms of ongoing support. So just to reiterate that, we've seen a lot of growth over the last few years, driven by an aggressive three-pronged approach, which is, go out, make some acquisitions, become an international company, and continue the strong organic growth that we've seen year on year since we started the company. We've still got, from today, we've still got financial targets that double in the next 2 years. So one of the things we needed was an infrastructure that we could deploy that could be internationally enabled as quickly as possible, and would support the growth, so could grow with our needs, both from a size and a complexity, but also from a breadth of solution. So as I mentioned earlier, as any customer would do, we went out and ran a selection process. We looked at other applications on the market space. We looked at on-premise solutions from Oracle. We also looked at NetSuite. We looked at Sage. We looked at Microsoft. And one of the things we recognised very early on is that we wanted an ERP class application, an enterprise class application that would grow with us. So not something we'd implement today and have to throw away in 10 years' time, but a solution that would live with us through the growth, through the expansion. And that's just not from one single location, but from multiple locations. We also recognised that we wanted a breadth of offering. We didn't want just to go and do an ERP solution. We wanted then to go and do a HCM fully integrated into it, HCM HR solution, and in time we then want to expand that and include other modules and other footprints as well. And we want something that's got a modern user interface. So a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of capability around business intelligence, social and mobile. So based upon all that, after looking and evaluating all the other software products, the only clear winner for us was Oracle. And the beauty of Oracle is not only was it enterprise class, not only did it have a broad set of applications, but also it allowed us to take a modular approach to the implementation, which again was something key to make sure that we had success. Whilst it's still a fairly early market, obviously Oracle have been in the application market for many years. Their transition to cloud, as you can expect from a large global software supplier, is a long-term investment, and it's been quite an investment so far. But already, even though the product is fairly young, it's already seen, as you can see from this nuclear research, that it's already a leader in the top right quadrant in terms of functionality and usability, being driven to the far end of the scale. And again, Oracle they'll continue investing in this technology, continue investing in cloud as a way forward, because that, to me, that's the only way. That's where everyone's going at the moment. So our strategy, as I mentioned, we set this strategy out over 18 months ago. We very clearly needed a back office system to support our admin, to support our accounting. So obviously our first choice was to implement ERP finance. as the first step for us. But fundamentally we wanted the solution to cover our whole footprint, so we quite quickly wanted to get on and look at how we could control projects. And by control projects I mean capture time, cost time, and produce invoices for customers, and then do some reporting back on project profitability against expectation. And more latterly, being a professional services company, we want to then start to look at our ability to attract new people into the company and retain them in the business, and that's why we've looked at HCM and Taleo as the third component to our solution. And we'll talk about the future a bit later on in terms of where we're going with some of the other products out there. In terms of phasing, we obviously wanted a quick start solution, which we were able to deliver with pure basic transactional finance. So we went from nothing to a go live situation in 8 weeks, and I'll talk about how we did that in the next slide. Phase 2 looked at the more complex areas, so looked at project controls, time entry, billing, forecasting, and also looked at some of the enhanced finance areas, so things like expenses, so expenses on your iPhone, and also looked at the social side of how you embed social into some of the transaction processing that goes on, and speed up the process of issue resolution and sharing of information. And that took us about 12 weeks. It was, as I said, it was more complex. And then phase 3, which we completed about 2 months ago, has been our deployment of HCM and Taleo, so core HR, ability to go out and identify people, bring them into the business, and then look at things like talent management to retain them in the business and understand what skills you have in the organisation. And actually that took us about 6 weeks, all of which are fairly impressive and aggressive numbers in terms of going from a start of a new phase to getting some success and some return on the investment. And a lot of that is, we're a technology company. This is what we do. We're a professional services company. But actually, there were other things that drove it as well and assisted the process. So the first thing I want to talk about is what did we learn during the implementation. So we've always been of the view that we never reinvent the wheel. So we've always used flow-based processes to help drive an implementation. We don't, the days of sitting down with a blank piece of paper and designing what your business wants to do, to us, is not the right approach. Fundamentally, a large percentage of your processes will be the same as anybody else's processes. So look at adopting best practice. And obviously Oracle have been investing in best practice for a number of years now. We've been working very closely with them through its various iterations, and I think this is about 8 years old in terms of where the concept started from. And this is about pick the base flows, pick the 80% of flows that fit your business out of the box, and focus the effort on the 20% that makes you different as a business. And I'm just going to take you into the Modern Best Practice public website, which, as I mentioned, this is about the fifth or sixth iteration, 8 years old, where Oracle and its network of partners and people have developed standard business processes for key areas. So don't reinvent the wheel. Don't invest time in doing something that's already there and can be adopted. So, for example, if I'm and this is very much based upon the function that you sit within the business. So when you come into this website, depending on where you sit, whether it's finance, whether it's HR and talent, whether it's marketing, or whether it's procurement, you go and look at that area and look at what the processes are that fundamentally make up that area and can be taken quite quickly and adopted in the business. So requisition to receipt, to be frank, is a very similar process across all businesses. There might be some tweaks in terms of data, but that process should be the same whether it's company A or company B. And as I drill down into this, you'll start to see even more detailed information about what each of the steps are within the application to raise a requisition, to approve a requisition, to how to create a purchase order, how to approve purchase orders. And because we've got all this pre-built flows and actually content, because obviously we've developed test scripts, test scenarios for all these key points. It means we've got a kit, an implementation kit to bring to the table straight away, which means that we can speed up the early processes of an implementation. And at the end of this presentation, we'll share the link to this page in case people miss it. But absolutely, the way that you get rapid implementations is spend your time focusing on what makes you different as a business, adopt the flows out of the box that can be adopted, and what you get then is consistency in solution. You get some compliance across the whole group in terms of all using the same software, all using the same process, and you reduce the implementation time by not having to reinvent things from scratch. So absolutely made quite a difference in our implementation to make sure that we achieve those fairly aggressive timescales. Next thing to point out, we're in the cloud world, so be quite strong, and Pascal will talk about this a bit later on, be quite strong about limiting your customizations. Everybody will need to do some customizations, whether it's an integration to a third-party package that isn't in the cloud yet, it's on-premise, or whether it's a tweak to some forms for logos, etc. But the days of doing large customizations, I think everyone's experienced implementations that have ended up building cumbersome solutions that are costly and difficult to support moving forward. Cloud is about trying to simplify those implementations and make them more digestible and more supportable, and actually, the cost of ownership reduces, which is, I think, what every company is trying to drive to. In terms of the implementation itself, built into the application is an excellent tool that allows you to project manage your own implementation. So rather than having to rely upon somebody knowing exactly where the various configuration items are, by creating your own project within the project management functionality for the implementation, which is the screenshot on the right hand side, the system will give you a list of all the core structured data that needs to be set up in the application based upon the flows that you chose, and then actually once you've got that structured list of information, you can then allocate it out to the relevant people, put deadlines on it, and make it act and behave like a project plan, so you can then monitor where you are against configuration. The other beauty of it is, rather than having to navigate through all the various screens to find the particular configuration item, there's a button within that list to go straight to the launch pad, and again you can just from within this configuration manager go straight out, and again saves a massive amount of time in terms of being a bit more structured, a bit more focused, asking the questions you need to answer based upon the flows you've implemented, and giving you a central place to go and do the configuration and coordinate activities. So a great tool. So three key things: modern best practice, adopt what's out there in the marketplace as standard best practice. Customizations, you can do them, but you need to be strong about limiting them, and actually that will benefit everybody in terms of companies moving forward from a lower cost of ownership. And within the tool, there's now some good functionality to speed up the process of getting from start to a live situation. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Pascal, who's going to talk a bit about what we've learned since going live, and sort of bring us to a conclusion over the next few slides. Pascal?
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Phil. Yeah. So I think you've heard the story of what we went through and how the implementation happened. Basically, now I just want to talk to you about what we are experiencing now that we are live. So basically, at the beginning, we had, of course, a few issues like you would expect for any new implementation, but you can really feel the maturity of the product, and especially at that time we were on release 5, so 18 months ago. So all the issues, the major issues, have been fixed quite quickly by Oracle. And today, for your information, Oracle is releasing the release 9. and the release 10 is about to get out. So really, the maturity of especially the finance and procurement suites are very good. So that's one thing. The second thing is the big difference we've seen is in the usability of the product. Clearly, you can see what Oracle calls the modern ways of working. They've been thinking about this. They've been embedding a lot new little functionalities like social and embedded BI in the process, which means that basically you break a lot of silos that you used to have in, for example, a payables department who are only speaking with people from their department. Now they can actually call someone that done a purchase order and ask him what's the issue with the purchase order and things like this. So really this is a new way of working. And it really changes the whole habits of people when they use the system. So that's something also that we realized. And the last thing is this upgrade. So I've mentioned that we went from release 5 to release 10 already, or release 9. Really, Oracle has really built something solid and robust. So basically, they will warn you about the upgrades coming soon. So roughly about every 6 months, they will tell you that there is a major upgrade coming. And they will give you a time frame to do testing. And once you're happy with the testing, then they will upgrade your production instance for you. So I mean, I think you've all been through the old days of doing an upgrade on an ERP system. It's so much pain and things. But now really it's really embedded in the product strategy. And so this is why also that you want to make sure that you keep your system as standard as possible, because of course you will not be able to benefit from those upgrades if you have customized it a lot. So that's again one thing that you want to be aware of when you set up those processes. Keep it standard. It does, as Phil said, 80% of what your business does. So keep it standard as much as possible, and you will be able to benefit of all the upgrades and get the new functionalities straight out of the box from the releases. So that's really something we've learned through the once we've been live. So finally, if you look at our takeaways as part of this journey, so basically we can sort them into 2 areas. So the first one is what we've learned and what we've seen as a customer, as an ERP Cloud customer. Basically, the first thing we obviously achieved is that now we are running a reliable ERP system, and that provides advanced reporting and very user-friendly reporting tools. And this is really important for us because as Phil was mentioning, the company has grown quite a lot over the past couple of years, and we had to set up a robust foundation to make sure that we don't jeopardize this growth. The second thing, again, we keep mentioning it, but really I think it's a game changer, and that's why we have a dedicated webcast on this one. We want to show you what it means in terms of new modern ways of working. Third bullet point is about, we are allowed to scale up on demand. Basically, Phil mentioned our offices in KL and in the US, and really to deploy those offices, it was just about setting up the application, but there was no issues with network connection, with is the bandwidth going to be enough? How do I connect my data center and things like this? This is gone now. Those questions are no longer on the table. So this is very interesting for us because we didn't want to invest in any of these IT, I would say, assets, and so clearly this is allowing us to scale up on demand. And the final thing that we learned is that we've gone through this as a customer, so we understand now. Once we are now providing professional services to implement Cloud ERP, but we've seen what it means from the inside. So we can we've been at the customer place, and so we know how does it feel like for the customer. So that's really something important that we've learned out of this. And the second category of things we've learned as part of this journey is for our business, basically. Really I would say our job of implementing solutions is changing a lot, and because we used to go from a blank page, starting from what do you want out of this big box that is Oracle ERP. Now it's really a different approach. It's okay, as Phil mentioned, these are the process flows that come with the tool. It will cover most of your business processes. Let's focus on the very specificities that make your business particular. But you can already go with that, with what is out of the box. And really, this is a different approach to what we used to know. very less customization. Not, so in all the former implementations, we kept saying keep it standard and everything. That's what we all said at the beginning, but then we ended up in customizing the system. Now the difference with cloud is that you actually just can't customize it. You don't have access to any of the heavy customization that legacy ERP would allow you to do. You don't have access to the database, for example, so you actually just can't customize it. So there are ways to localize it, and Oracle has built some capacities that you can localize the system, but really not change the whole flow. That's the point. And also, really it changes our role, because now, the product comes with business flows, so we need to be knowledgeable on those business flows. So it's really more about business process discussion than it was about, setting up or tool setup or configuration. It's really about how do I run my business, how do I run my processes, more than how do I set up this particular piece of the process. So we don't need as much technical knowledge as we require, because Oracle is managing the whole back office technical stuff. We don't actually need any DBA to set up Oracle ERP Cloud for any customer. So this is really a difference for us. The remote engine room is about, as Phil said, now everything is on cloud, so all the setup can be done remotely. As soon as you just have options to select, and as soon as you have selected how you want the product to work, then the whole setup can be done remotely and through the implementation tool that Phil showed you earlier. And the last point is that, as it was before, change is important for sure, but it's again more important now, because you have to use the process as it is built in the cloud ERP. So you won't be able to tweak it that much. So really you need to focus on the level of change that you need to do to make sure that your people will understand the new process and will get the best out of the new process, the process flows. So, we've gone through this. Now we are using the system, and we are coming. Obviously, it's a non-ending game, I would say, but obviously new challenges arise. The first one of them being what we call, it's fun. I mean, it's good to have modular approach, because then you can deploy each of the modules at the speed that you want and at the speed that your business is ready to integrate them. But then, once you deploy ERP, then you want to deploy HCM, then you want to deploy sales and everything, you need to make sure that you integrate those pieces together properly. So, these are the new challenges. The second point is, obviously, you're not going to put everything in the cloud at once. So you're going to put your back office processes, finance and procurement in the cloud first. But then you will have to integrate those cloud applications with the rest of your systems, of your existing systems. And clearly, how do you integrate this with the cloud? Because most of those systems will be on-premise. How do you plug this to the cloud? So really, this is a new challenge, and we will talk about this in the next webcast. The third point is, we've talked about those modern ways of working, but really, how do you make sure your people will understand how to use those tools? Because, working with social tools is not a given for everyone. So it's really powerful, but you need to be able to leverage them as possible. So you need to understand how it works, and you need to understand how you can use them as part of any given process. And finally, so we can clearly say now that procurement, finance, and HCM are really mature offerings from Oracle. And what we will try to focus on the next webcast is, so what is the next big thing coming out of Oracle? And we believe this is going to be around all the planning and budgeting area, where we'll start to see very mature products coming out from Oracle as well. So finally, this is just a list again of the next webcast we'll be doing. Basically, those webcasts will be answering the questions that I just mentioned. So we've gone through it already, and those will be there will be much more demos in those webcasts. So we want to show you basically how it looks like in reality, in real life. So I would say stay tuned, and for sure we'll try to give you as much information as possible. So Phil, do you want to give a conclusion?
Yep. Thanks very much, Pascal. So just before I wrap up, I'm going to launch another poll question just to understand the maturity of the market and where people are at the moment. Again, as previously, we'll leave it there for 10 or 15 seconds, and then we'll start to wrap things up. And I'm going to close it in 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, hopefully you're back at the slides now. I want to thank everybody. We're just running slightly behind time. There's been a couple of questions raised, which I'll take one of them, which is someone's asked me to share the link for the modern best practice. I think we've actually put it out on social media already. If you don't get it, then just email us at info@inoapps.com. Or tweet us or whatever it is you need to do on social media, and we'll get it over to you. I absolutely think it's a game changer. It's part of one of the fundamental things that allowed us to do the aggressive implementations we have to date. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be posting out via social media various updates and during the breaks in between the webinars, tasters and more background information to what's going on. We've created our own hashtag, which is Inoapps Cloudcast, which you'll see there on the right hand side of the screen. And also, finally, when I close the webinar down, then you will get a post-webinar survey. I'll be very grateful if people will spare a bit of time just to give us some feedback. We want to make not just this session, but all these sessions relative and informative and enjoyable for people to attend. So. Again, just closing down, many thanks for your time this afternoon. We will put these up as recorded webcasts for people to watch in the future if you've got colleagues, etc. But also, if you've got any specific questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call, and we look forward to speaking to you again in a few weeks' time when we hit the second one. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.